Hello, Gene Schwimmer here. Welcome to today's vlog, which I start with a special message for my Christian viewers, which is that I hope you all had a fantastic Christmas. Hope you got a lot of nice presents, maybe some nice expensive presents, and that you had a great Christmas dinner, that you're all stuffed today and enjoying your presents, and that you have a few minutes for me today. But if you don't, I understand. I've been meaning to talk about this for a while, and I have just been kind of putting it on the back burner as I thought about it, but it's the day after Christmas, so I think this would be a good time to talk about it, because unfortunately, it's a sad discussion that I have to have today, which I suppose is unfortunate because it's just coming after the joyous celebration of Christmas. Because the subject that I want to talk today about is Christian persecution of Christians throughout the world. I don't hear anybody talking about it, so I'm going to talk about it, and I'm going to propose a solution, but I especially am going to focus on the Middle East. But before I do that, I want to play a video of a world leader saying something that I have been waiting for a Western world leader to say, well, literally for decades. It's from Boris Johnson, whom I'm starting to like more and more. The more I watch him, the more I listen to him. I'm just starting to really admire him. He recorded a Christmas message. I'm linking to the entire message if anybody wants to listen to it, but I want to share with you just a portion of that message. So listen now, and then I'll come back.
Today of all days, I want us to remember those Christians around the world who are facing persecution. For them, Christmas Day will be marked in private, in secret, perhaps even in a prison cell. As Prime Minister, that's something I want to change. We stand with Christians everywhere in solidarity and will defend your right to practice your faith.
Welcome back, and as I said, this is a message that I have been waiting to hear from a Western leader for a long time. This persecution of Christians, and I don't understand as a Jew why Christians, I don't understand why I'm the one who has to bring this up besides Boris Johnson, because I'm not even a Christian, but I don't hear Christians talking about this, and especially this is where I'm going to focus today on the Middle East, and I'm going to focus even more narrowly on the Palestinian Authority, Judea and Samaria, and the Gaza Strip, which is completely being ignored as far as the persecution of Christians. It's also an irony that a lot of our friends on the left, the ones who are always criticizing Israel is the only state where the Christian population is increasing. They are becoming extinct everywhere else in the Middle East, literally. I'm going to read you some quotes now from an article. Let me put up the article. I'm going to read some quotes. There are quite a few of them, so bear with me, but it really illustrates the problem, and then I'm going to propose a solution. This is not going to be one of these talks or one of these vlogs where I am defending Israel or saying what the Palestinians and the Arabs are doing. I am proposing a solution. So if you agree with my solution, I urge you to write your congressman, your senator, and urge that somebody mention this if you think it's a good idea. Anyways, on to the quotes. Here is the article, A Christian Crisis in Gaza and the West Bank. As Christians celebrate Christmas around the world, it is worthwhile to focus on the Christian population in the region. According to the Central Bureau of Statistics, there are 177,000 Christians in Israel, a growth of 1.5% from last year, and an increase of more than 3 times since 1948. Contrast these data with the figures in a report published by then British Foreign Secretary Jeremy Hunt in July. The report found that the number of Christians in the Middle East has dwindled from 20% of the population a century ago to just 5%. And this is the part I'm going to talk about today. Most notably in the Palestinian territories, where they have dropped to below 1.5%. So I just want to make that little point there. I guess toot my ethnic horn for a minute. I guess I will take a second to defend Israel because, as I just noted, the Christian population of Israel has tripled since 1948. It increased by 1.5% from last year, increased 1.5%. But in the Palestinian territories, they have dropped to below 1.5% of the population total. Okay, let's go on with the quotes. Quote, "We've all been asleep on the watch when it comes to the persecution of Christians," unquote, Hunt said. So I'm hoping, again, jumping in here, that the West is finally starting to wake up because of Boris Johnson. One of the reasons that I admire him, I think if he would talk to Donald Trump about the solution that I am going to propose at the end of this vlog, I think he would get a very good reception from Donald Trump, and maybe something then will be done about this. Back to the quotes. The organization Open Doors put, quote, the Palestinian territories, unquote, in 49th place out of 50 on its World Watch list, an annual report on the global persecution of Christians. The report cited, quote, Islamic oppression, unquote, as the main source of persecution, adding that, quote, Islamic extremist militants are also present in the West Bank, causing Christians to fear being attacked, unquote, and that the persecution is particularly brutal for converts to Christianity. In fact, as you know, if you're at all familiar with the Quran, which I have read, by the way, I won't say all of it, but I read a great deal of it, the punishment under the Quran for a Muslim converting to Christianity is death. So hopefully this is short of death, but it says right here that the persecution is particularly brutal for converts to Christianity. And I'm going to give you a source of a number of examples of this coming up, so stick with me. At least 3 incidents have affected Christians living under Palestinian Authority rule this year, according to a report by the Begin Sadat Center for Strategic Studies. A mob targeted the Christian village of Jifna near Ramallah, causing significant property damage and terrifying its residents. And a Maronite church in Bethlehem and an Anglican church near Ramallah were vandalized. Quote, though the Christians in the PA, that's Palestinian Authority, avoid saying so publicly, many of them fear with good reason that Muslim aggression against them will only escalate, unquote, wrote Edie Cohen, a researcher at the center. Quote, such fears are all the stronger in light of the thunderous silence of the Western and Israeli media in the face of the Christian minority's ongoing disappearance from the PA and Islamic lands in general. He added pointedly that, quote, the ongoing international neglect of the plight of the Christians under PA rule can only lead to the vanishing of Christianity from the place where it emerged, unquote. In the Gaza Strip, the Christian population has plummeted from about 3,000 a decade ago to an estimated 1,000 today, most of them Greek Orthodox. The situation of Christians in Bethlehem, the birthplace of Jesus, has deteriorated dramatically in the last century, and especially since the PA took control of the city in 1995. In 1947, Christians comprised about 85% of the city's population, but that figure had plunged to 16% by 2016 and is estimated since then Christianity is the world's largest religion with an estimated 2.4 billion adherents, almost a third of the world's 7.8 billion people. While it may seem ironic that the only place in the Middle East where Christians are thriving is the Jewish state, it is also a cause for concern. We wish our Christian readers a happy Christmas and pray along with them for those undergoing persecution for practicing their faith. And we includes me. It's just me of this vlog, but same sentiment. Wish all my Christian visitors a happy Christmas, or I hope you had one. This is the day after Christmas. And pray along with all of you for these Christians who are being persecuted around the world, but especially in the Palestinian Authority. And I would also add Pakistan, where it is especially bad too. But I'm not going to talk about Pakistan today. What I am going to talk about now is the solution that I had proposed. Now, the solution is in a book. The book was written by me. This is how strongly I feel about this issue, that I actually self-published a book, I think back in 2008. I'm linking to it. It's on Amazon if anybody wants to read it. You can buy the paperback, but you can read the Kindle edition for free, so it doesn't cost you anything to read it if you want to read it. On the other hand, it's from 2008, so it talks about the situation then. I provide numerous examples, country by country, going country by country, of Christians being persecuted. And this is as it was in 2008. Since then, I believe it has only gotten worse. I don't think it's gotten any better. I think it's gotten worse, especially in the Middle East, as you just saw in this article from which I quoted. So I want to first address one reason why I think this issue is being ignored in the Middle East, in the Palestinian Authority. And I blame our liberal friends. I blame the extreme Democrats, or even the moderate Democrats, who need the votes of the extreme Democrats and kowtow to them. But as I was talking a few days ago, there is this need on the part of our liberal friends to blame Israel for everything. And part of that is portraying the Israelis as evil, white colonialist oppressors, while portraying the Palestinians as victims, as poor innocent little lambs who are being persecuted by the evil white colonialist Jews. But if you have, and if the world has to acknowledge, and if our liberal friends have to acknowledge all these examples of these supposedly innocent Palestinian Muslims persecuting, attacking, and vandalizing the property of Christians, that obviously spoils the narrative, and they want to keep their narrative going. And I guess these Christians just have to suffer. But I think that the time has come that the world should do, or the United States at least, should do something about it. And that's what I mainly addressed in my book. Now, I want to be very clear here, because I got some pushback. Well, I mean, it was an obscure book. It's not like it was a bestseller or a lot of people bought it. There are 5-star reviews, so that's good, but there are only 2 reviews. The book obviously hasn't sold or been widely publicized, but from the few people who did read it, I did get a little bit of pushback, because I call the book The Christian State, and what it basically was, or is a call for a Christian state in the Middle East, just as there is a Jewish state. But I want to be clear on this, because the pushback I got, and I didn't know this, so it's just an honest mistake, that, well, Christian state, the Christian state, that title comes from the Jewish state, which was the book that Theodor Herzl, the founder of the Zionist movement, he wrote a book called The Jewish State, calling for a Jewish state in the Middle East. in the original homeland of the Jewish people. So I took from that title the inspiration to call my book The Christian State, but I understood that Christians, or at least some Christians, were reading that as a religious Christian state, a theocracy, and that there is, that your kingdom is in heaven, and an earthly Christian state, that would be wrong. So I just want to be clear, that is not what I meant, and it doesn't have to be. Well, I did not mean a theocracy. All I meant was a state like Israel where Christians are the majority. So the Christians have self-determination, and most important, they cannot be persecuted by Muslims. And let's be honest, they are the ones who are persecuting these Christians. As I said, and as this article said, the Christian population is increasing in Israel. They are not being persecuted in Israel. They are not being persecuted by Jews. The only place there is a little bit of persecution of Christians in India by Hindus, but by and large, you just have to be honest, it's by Muslims, and certainly in the Palestinian Authority and in Gaza. So that's all I'm talking about. I'm saying that Donald Trump, and perhaps with Boris Johnson, should denounce the two-state solution and call for a three-state solution, okay? A so-called Palestinian state. We have the Jewish state, and I'm calling for a Christian majority state. Okay, that's what I mean, a Christian majority state. Now, if you remember, well, you may not, because it was not in the news for very long, but there was a time when President al-Sisi of Egypt proposed to solve the Israeli-Palestinian dispute, or technically they're at war still, so accurately we should say the Israeli-Palestinian war. But whatever you want to call it, his solution was to offer part of the Sinai to the Palestinians to make a state there. They rejected it, and Sisi walked back. Well, he denied that he even said it. And maybe he's right. I would have to do some research on that to see if it's right. The point is, I think that would be an excellent place for a Christian. Actually, there is an advisor, Walid Fares. He is a Lebanese Christian. Well, he's probably an American citizen now. In fact, I'm sure he is, but originally a Lebanese Christian. He was an advisor to the Trump campaign, and I believe he still advises. He had called for a Christian enclave, just an area where Christians are the majority. And I think the Sinai between Israel and Egypt would be the perfect spot, because, well, I would like to see personally, and again, there may be a religious objection to this, but I would, if it's a Christian majority state where other religions are respected, I would think or would hope there would be no objection to that state, or whatever you want to call it, have its own army and be able to defend itself, just like Israel defends herself. I think that is the only way for them really to be safe. But if that's not acceptable, then a Christian state, enclave, territory, whatever it's to be called, between Israel and Egypt could be, well, I would like to see a joint patrol. I would like to see Egyptians and Israelis cooperating and jointly patrolling the Christian area, if the Christians don't want to have their own army. Though, again, I think that would be the best thing for them. I would also like to have this Christian, whatever it's to be called, to have a law of return similar to Israel's. Because as I was just mentioning, Pakistan, and as you'll see in my book, Christians are being persecuted all over the world. And they will, just as the United States cannot accept all the Jews who were being persecuted all over the world, the United States cannot accept all the Christians either. But Christian state could have a law of return where any persecuted Christian who could get there would immediately be accepted, allowed to live there, have immediate citizenship, just as in Israel. It's just something that I would like to see happen. There is an organization you may have heard of, Christians United for Israel, an organization of Christians that support Israel. And in fact, the president of the Christians United for Israel, John Hagee, he is a pastor, but he was present and he actually spoke at the opening of the American embassy in Jerusalem. So I appreciate, as a Jew, what the Christians United for Israel has been doing, but where is the organization Christians United for Christians, or Christians United for a Christian state or a Christian enclave? I mean, if you don't want a state, you could lease the land from part of the Sinai or wherever this state is to be, or whatever it's to be called, is to be situated. But assuming it's a Sinai, they could lease the land from Egypt and pay some token amount, 1 Egyptian pound, just some nominal amount. So officially it's still Egypt and they're just leasing the land. It could be a 1,000-year lease. And there could be a ceremony every year where the token rent is paid. I just wanted to put that idea out. It just pains me to see what's happening to Christians, and it pains me doubly to see that the world is not talking about it and the world is not trying to do anything about it. And it's especially pains me because, as I just said, I see a solution. It just bothers me that we're talking, or our friends, I'm no longer talking about it, but our friends are talking about a two-state solution, just ignoring the Christians, just pretending that they're not there, just leaving them completely out of the equation. Worst comes to worst, then if there can't be the idea that I'm talking about, then I would want Israel to annex as much of Judea and Samaria as possible, because the more land Israel has and the Palestinians don't have, the greater the area in which Christians in the Middle East, or Christians between the Mediterranean and the Jordan, will be safe. And finally, to end on a happier note, and since we were talking about Christians in Israel and Christmas messages, I thought you might like to see Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's Christmas message. Here it is.
Merry Christmas to all our Christian friends in Israel and around the world. The state of Israel is the culmination of so many prophecies and our deepest held values. We share the common civilization, Judeo-Christian civilization, that has given the world the values of freedom, individual liberty, the sanctity of life, the belief in one God. We are proud of our traditions. We are proud of our Christian friends. The state of Israel would not have come into being if it weren't for the avid support of Christians in the 19th century, in the 20th century as well. And in the 21st century, we know that we have no better friends around the world than our Christian friends. So thank you. Thank you all for standing up with Israel, standing up for the truth. Merry Christmas.
Merry Christmas.
That's it for today. Thumbs up if you like this video. Share it with anybody you think would also like the video. Got any comments? You can put them in the comment section below the video. You can also put suggestions for future topics or ask any questions you might have. And subscribe. I love getting subscribers. And finally, come back and see me again. I look forward to seeing all of you again. And until I do see all of you again, bye.